Hello, welcome to Paranormal AF. Today's episode, we're gonna have a caller. I found Ava on Facebook and I found her story interesting. So we decided to get on a call and she's gonna tell us all about her creepy experiences, some of her childhood. So I'm hoping that you guys will enjoy. All right, let's get into it. Let's do this.
Hey,
Hey, how are you?
good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I know nothing about Canada, let alone where you're from. So I'm really curious, like, what's it like growing up over there?
Yeah, well, it's cold.
Yeah.
And specifically where I'm from a little island called Cape Breton off of Nova Scotia. It's beautiful, and it's indigenous land. But the town that I grew up in was a battleground in the 1700s for the war in France.
Whoa. Hello, it's a different day. I just wanted to go over a little bit of the background and history about the area that she's in. Nothing too crazy. I don't want to bore you guys with a history lesson. But I thought it was important to acknowledge and note what happened in this area. Nova Scotia was the place where many battles took place. These battles were mainly fueled by wanting to take control of the land. The indigenous people, Mi'kmaq, and I might be saying that completely wrong. I don't know if it's Mi'kmaq or Mi'kmaq. I saw it pronounced and spelled differently, so I'm hoping that if I say it fast enough, we won't notice. Anyways, they had an alliance with the French and fought alongside them when the English or the British came over and were trying to take over. These battles lasted several years, but unfortunately, this is just another story of colonization and the displacement of indigenous communities from their ancestral lands. With this conflict and war, of course, there was a lot of tragic events, such as deaths, the separation of children and families, as well as some ugly practices such as torturing and scalping. With that said, you can imagine how much pain and history this place holds.
So, growing up here, it's always been, not only is it indigenous land, but it's also a battleground, and we have lots of, activity out there in the town that I live in.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
It's super cool. We have the Fortress of Louisbourg, which is terrifying in itself to go to. I work at it every summer, and there's so much that goes on there. We have yearly haunts from the Cape will come and do ghost hunting there. It's super fun.
Really? Oh my god, that sounds so interesting. So, Ava mentions the Fortress of Louisbourg. Back in its prime, it was one of North America's most active harbors. It served as a crucial hub for France, playing a vital role in fishing, trading, and military power. Alright, that's it for history. Back to the story.
It's super fun. It's scary growing up. I live right beside the woods too, so it's nice though, and there's not a whole lot of people out here.
Okay, well, I guess that's both good and bad, right?
Yeah. I don't mind at all.
Yeah. You mentioned that you could predict things in your dreams. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Like, what were some of those dreams, and was there one that you remember the most?
Yeah, for sure. So, I guess when I started growing up, I've always had this. We'd be driving somewhere, and I would tell them that that particular thing was going to happen on the way. Like we were going to see a car accident, or like when we get there, and the store was going to be closed. And my parents told me as I grew up that when I was young, I used to also predict, like I would wake up in the middle of the night and tell them that a specific thing would be on TV that night, and they would turn it on, and there it would be. And that was all fine until I started getting older, and I woke up one night and I was really upset. I told my mom that my grandfather was going to get hurt. And he had fallen and he had broken his hip. And I had told my mother that her best friend would deliver a baby far too early, and that it eventually did end up happening as well, which was also unfortunate.
Yeah, oh my gosh. And how did your parents kind of like react compared to the first times you would tell them this stuff and then later on when they would realize that these things would actually happen?
Yeah, they thought it was funny, and then they kind of started thinking I was a little weird, but apparently my mom's family is indigenous, and apparently her extended family, that's happened to them. I mean, her aunt predicted all the births in the family or something, so she said it could have something to do with that. But now I ended up having to go through years of therapy because I thought I was causing those bad things to happen.
Right, right.
So they don't react like that anymore. It's a process when a dream like that happens now.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I can't imagine because I'm sure you said like you were really young and you were seeing things that are not super bright, like accidents and things like that. So I can't imagine like you trying to process that at such a young age, you know?
Yeah, and when I got my license, and only maybe a year ago I was driving home in the winter, and I started having feelings of like, I was like, oh, I'm gonna see the police, I'm gonna see something bad happen, and I had an overwhelming feeling to pull off to the side of the road, and I did. And then after 10 minutes passed, I thought, okay, I can probably go now. And then I saw police cars flying by me, and then I pulled out onto the road, and down the road was a massive accident. Someone was strung up like in a tree, and I was like, oh my God, like I was protected by something.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's crazy.
It was wild. I lost it. I called my dad, and he was like, you come home right away. And I was the only car around. If I would have been there, something bad would have happened.
No, yeah, that could have maybe even had been you. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Absolutely.
Out of curiosity, do you still have those dreams nowadays, or is kind of just every now and then, or not at all?
Yeah, it's now and then. Every once in a while, I'll get a bad dream, and I never know if it's gonna come true or not. It's just there's nothing that ever signifies that this will be one that happens or not.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay. You also said that weird things would happen around you all the time in your home. Can you tell me some of the things that you would experience, or even anything in particular that stuck with you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it would always be my room was always very cold, and the door would shut, and I would hear maybe knocking sounds or noises coming from my bedroom. But in particular, I remember hearing scratch noises outside my door,
Ooh.
and outside my window. And I ended up moving to the basement when I started university, and I still like feel like on the window I hear tapping or scratching to this day. It's just always kind of been like that.
No, no, you're good. And I guess same thing with your parents. Like, would they try to play it off, or would they tell you like, oh, like just don't bother them? I don't know, like something.
Yeah, we have like general consensus not to be stupid outside in the night.
Correct. Yeah, especially
know.
wooded areas, I would assume.
Exactly. Like we have a problem with the dog going missing in the woods, and the general idea is don't go in alone, because when we do, we sometimes get lost from each other, and it's hard to navigate where you're at. It's a very confusing. It's a weird phenomenon that happens in that woods.
Interesting. Have you heard like stories of people like folklore, or like just that you hear around town?
Yeah, we hear there's lots of folklore around the woods, especially in the land that we're on. Like, people see soldiers sometimes, but also people see, I guess, like shadow creatures. I've never seen one, but there's like a general scent of like a very metallic scent in the air, I guess, and they manipulate time and space. I've never had that happen, but we don't, mess around in that area anyway.
Yeah, you're like, I'd rather not find out. You mentioning the history with that land, I'm sure it's to this day it holds a lot of that energy,
Yeah.
just because it's a little tragic as well. So can you tell me again the story when you were young with the curtain?
Yeah, for sure. So it would have been around Christmas time, and I went to stay with my parents in their room, because we had company, and I was staying on a pull-out couch in their bedroom. And I was really young, and I saw all the lights were off, and there was a curtain up to block we had renovations going around in the whole house. So my bedroom had a curtain up, and their bedroom had a curtain up. And between those two curtains, and there was no one in my bedroom, between those two curtains, there was a light, which does not make any sense. It's hard to explain why there would be a light there, but there's no
Yeah.
light. Something was casting like a silhouette of a very tall person. And I could see really long hair. And the most disturbing part of it, I remember, was when I started making out the fact that it was a person, I saw like fingers poking the fabric.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I realized that it was the shadow of a person, until I realized that it was fingers, and it was ridiculously tall and long fingers.
Like your typical almost scary movie long skinny bony
Yes.
fingers.
And I've never seen anything like that. I still hadn't seen anything like that to, that day.
Uh-huh. Wow. And as a kid, did you just kind of like cover yourself or something, or did it just like go away in a blink of an eye?
It actually did not go away. This persisted through the night, and I would cry. I told my parents, and they looked, and they didn't see anything, so I chalked it up to be a dream.
Oh my gosh, that's horrible.
I like turned out the other way, and I went to bed.
Oh, that's like the hardest part. Like, I don't know if I'd be able to go to bed knowing that that's
No.
there.
It was really bad, and I would look over my shoulder, and it would still be there.
Ooh, that's horrible. I mean, well, I guess that's the only thing you can do, right? Because you're like, I'd rather go to bed and get this over with than
Yes.
keep being awake and keep seeing it, you know? I totally get that. That's crazy. I guess talking about that, do you want to then move on to what happened recently?
Yeah, so I moved into a different room, which is in the same house. And I was sleeping one night, and my boyfriend didn't come home that night, so it was already like a terrible night trying to fall asleep.
Yeah.
And I was hearing weird sounds, and then I was asleep, and I heard a very loud bang come from the corner of my room by the window. And so I kind of shuffled, and I looked, and there was nothing there. That was until later in the night when I woke up and opened my eyes and saw like very long legs in front of me. And when I looked up, I can't even explain the discomfort because I have very high ceilings, but this thing that I saw was bent in a way that looked like it was so uncomfortable to be standing. Like its back was down, touching the roof, and its head was hanging low, and its hands were grabbing the beams of the roof like it was uncomfortable and wanted to push out.
Yeah.
Long hair, very skinny, and I could see a very long jaw. I couldn't see any facial features. I didn't want to.
Right.
And I ended up having to leave my room because I was so bothered by it. And this time when I looked back, it was there for a while, but then I looked back and it was gone.
Whoa. And sorry, you said it was in the corner of the room or like kind of closer to where you were?
It's closer to my bedroom is a pie shape because my house is a circle. So it's very hard to find like a kind of corner. So it's on the edge of the wall by the door and the window.
Okay.
Standing right beside my bed. Terrible, looking down at me like it's uncomfortable and wanted to push away, and wearing no clothes. I was so bothered. And I couldn't make anything out. Like, there was no, like, I couldn't describe the body, but I could see on the arms and the legs that I was looking at that the skin was, like, hanging off. It was so disturbing, and it was so dark in my room that but, like, my eyes were adjusted enough to see just that.
Right.
It was the worst thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. I know it's like I'm over here asking you because I'm interested, but I'm sure it's a terrifying experience that nobody really would want to go through. Did you tell your boyfriend once he got home?
I did, and he kind of wanted no part to do with that because
He said, "Don't know, don't care."
before we had been sitting on this particular bed, and I walked in the room and I couldn't see him. He was like blurred by this black like mass that was in the shape of a person. So this is not like the first time that I've seen like that, but I just thought it was vision maybe, or just that it was blurry. But this like really made me think, oh, maybe something more is happening than just that.
No, yeah. Is he a skeptic or is he a believer and just doesn't want to be involved?
I think that at first, like, everyone's a bit of a skeptic.
Oh, yeah.
But we've had enough experience now, especially him being out around my home and, like, in the woods and stuff. I think he's on board with it now.
Yeah. Can you tell me one of those stories where he was like, oh, okay, I kind of believe you now?
Well, we were outside and we were looking at the meteor shower.
Ooh.
And they're beautiful meteor showers out here. And we're all standing on the deck, my parents and both of us, and it's probably 2 a.m. And he looks at me because he smells blood.
Oh, so like you said, like a metallic smell?
Yeah. And the same thing happens. Like, we get out of the car and the whole world goes silent. No sound at all. No rustling of the trees, no, like, birds, no nothing.
No crickets, no anything.
Not a thing.
Oh, that's so eerie.
It was terrifying. We had to walk up the stairs to my house and get onto the deck, and the feeling, like the smell and the feeling, it just is wrong.
Yeah, like everything in you tells you like something's going on and it's not good.
Interesting because why do we have that sense if
Right?
we've never had to worry about it before?
Yeah, exactly. I always am so interested in like the way we have that kind of sixth sense of just like knowing when something's not right, you know?
Yeah. And then, like, in just a like blink of an eye, the whole forest is active again in the night. It's so strange.
What? That's crazy. I know, for example, a lot of, in Mexico, we always say that whenever all the dogs, because everybody has a dog, all the dogs start barking in the neighborhood and start going crazy, like that's not good. Like something is either passing by or there's something there. It could also very much be just the dogs barking, but it is a weird feeling when it's all normal and then all of a sudden all the dogs in the neighborhood start barking. It's just kind of like...
truly believe in that because I have 2 dogs and they will stare in the night at nothing.
Ooh.
And all of the hair will stand up and they'll stand still. And one of the dogs, the line that they were on, the wire line broke, and she's a small dog. I don't know how that would have broke. And she vanished into the woods, and she's not a runner. She when she vanished, she was like miles into the woods. And when we walked into the woods, like I said, it's disorienting. You don't know which direction it's coming from, and then you'll walk in one direction, and all of a sudden it'll be coming from behind you.
What?
It's me and my father were stuck in the woods for a while because it was so disorienting.
When the dog ran away, was this at nighttime?
This was around just before sunset, so the sun was setting while we were in the woods.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
Has anything else happened since then?
Since that night, nothing has happened since that night other than the terrible window that is beside me. Is now permanently closed. I keep those blinds shut completely. It looks out into a really terrible looking spot in my yard and directly into the woods. And it is no longer allowed to be open. I also do not use that door anymore. I refuse to.
You just get that feeling that you're like,
And I was looking for some help on that group, like any advice. Nothing really came of it, but I have been having trouble falling asleep
recently.
Yeah.
Not just because of like insomnia or anything like that, like you feel like it's something else, or you're just having trouble sleeping?
What can you do? It didn't harm me at all, but
right.
I just feel like there's something preventing me from, like, I'm really restless. I have no idea, but it's been since that night.
Interesting. Are there people in your area who do like traditional medicine?
Yeah, for sure. We have lots of indigenous medicine and traditional medicine. We have like pagan herbalists around. My grandmother is one of them. And they've given me lots of things. I have lots of home remedies around me at all times.
Yeah, no, that's good. But yeah, well, wow, thank you so much. This was a really great conversation. Thank you in general for being open and wanting to share your story with me. Like I said, I love hearing this stuff and I love just connecting and sharing stories with people as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really love stuff like this, and I really enjoy what you're doing. I spent a lot of time listening to some of your stuff, and I really, really enjoy it. I love it a lot.
Oh, thank you so much. That makes me really happy.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.